press record. Okay. We'll give people a couple of minutes just to filter in. How's your practice going? Guess you're muted. Well, okay. So let's just take a breath. And just let your senses land in the room where you are. Let this moment slow you down. The state of consciousness that we reach for. It appears when you stop. It's like a pendulum swinging back and forth, but it's only that moment at the center right here where there's a little opening into reality, that space between the breaths. A pendulum swinging back and forth. People are pouring in. I'm going to mute us so that we don't. Okay. A pendulum swinging back and forth. And when it crosses the center line, there's a little bit of opening into reality. Just a flash of light. In your breath, that spot is actually in between the breaths. At the top of the inhale, right before you begin the exhale, and at the bottom of the exhale, right before you begin the inhale. It happens all day long, but you don't see it. It's not hard to notice. It's quite stark. It's quite potent. But the world that your attention is trapped in is so much denser that it just is louder than that moment. And so, if the stories of this world are pulling you, making you race, making you busy, making you plan, you're missing the opening. Those stories, they make the pendulum swing stronger and faster. The opening's still there. If it weren't, you would die. That's where all of your vitality and energy actually flow from. If you don't pull from it during your day, you pull from it unconsciously while you sleep. For that to happen, you have to go into deep, deep, deep sleep. And in that state, the pendulum slows way down, way down. And that little opening gets longer and longer until you just find stillness. And in that place, everything real can flow through and vitalize your body. Around the edges of that moment, you'll have all sorts of dreams. It's just you dealing with all the things that stand in the way of you in that moment. Until it finally stops. Feel that? That's the feeling of being able to stop consciously. That's the meditative state. It's not the practice of meditation, it's the actual meditative state. It's not about tinkly bells or picturing yourself under some waterfall. It starts where you stop. I've been saying that for decades. Because it's true. We come to a class like this with the pendulum swinging so quickly. And it's an invitation to just slow down. To just let go of time. Like, what if it were just this and nothing more forever? Could you just open up into this? As if you've always been here. As if you'll always be here. Nothing to accept or reject. Just the ringing of this still eternity. This is what I teach. Everything else is posturing. this is what's real. And if you'll let go into it, you can make it your home forever or for a while. You can function from that place. You'll still be sharing a world with crazy people, but at least you'll be awake. You'll know where the lines are. And you'll know where you're coming from. Any day that you can do that for even 10 minutes is a massive success in the scope of human history, because nobody's doing it. You can sit in it just for itself, or you can bring the power of that into your personal story and use it to completely revamp your worldview. If you're religious, you can bring that into your religion. To bring all the ancient teachings back to life. Or you can just sit with consciousness itself. And find divinity in that. It's all the same. Not because I say so. See it for yourself. When you stop projecting onto the screen of life, you can sit with what's left. What's there when you don't have to conjure something? What's there is God. What's there is you. And that's not quite the same as saying you are God. The experience is more nuanced than that. But you can have the experience. Where life is showing you what's real instead of you constantly telling life what your personal reality is. It's huge. So let's sit in that together. Attention at the forehead and crown. Show up for the moment. And don't project anything onto it. Slow yourself down to the speed of this actual moment. And And just let go of the lines between you and it. Those boundaries aren't real anyways. Let go of the idea of practice and just be there. Everyone in this room has been here long enough. Just let go into this moment. And be with it. If it isn't comfortable, you're not letting go. open up to whatever is present in this moment. If your mind is caught on something, open up to that in this moment. In between all of its component parts is the vast backdrop of intelligent, resonant silence and stillness. If you resist it, it lives on. If you throw yourself open to it, it takes its place in the vast ocean of silence. You don't need to fix the mind. You don't need to heal the emotions. Just show up for it and you will find instant order. I was a massage therapist for 15 years. I could fix things that nobody else could fix. People with mysterious pains that nothing else could touch. They'd go to people and they would tug and they would pull and they would roll over it with their fists. Do you want to know how I fixed it? I place my hands and my mind over it and I would be with it. If it wanted to move, I would move with it. I explored it exactly the way it was. Brought consciousness to it. Kind of like when you get a bunch of string into a knot. You can't just start tugging at it, it just makes it worse. You have to sit with it and explore the knottedness of it. And as you do, you can see little areas where if you just apply a gentle pressure, you can pull out one loop of the knot. The body was the same way. I'd sit with my hands over it. There'd be a little instinct to put my hand somewhere else, and I would follow that. And I would just keep following that. And at the end of an hour, pain that people had had for a lifetime would go away and it wouldn't come back. Not because I'm so good, but because it's the nature of the moment to evolve. And if you can just bring present moment awareness into anything, it starts undoing its knots. It's what I do with you every week. I show up. What comes out of my mouth comes naturally. I don't plan it. Whenever I try, I have to let it go. The presence in me is the presence in you. As I bring it forward, you bring it forward in yourself. And it's able to enter deeply, to start unfolding everything. And we talk about living in this space, but it's not about being this perfectly unknotted being. You're here to struggle and have suffering and losses and wins. But we get so knotted up that basic process just feels like nonstop losses. Or wins that you don't even care about anymore. You need a chance to remember who you are. To get anything out of this messy world. As kids, you knew instinctively. And so the mess itself was actually interesting. Like a piece of art. And before you knew it, you were drowning in art. So we show up and we let go. We find our center again. And we stabilize ourselves within it. And it makes the mess more interesting. We can go back to learning from it. When it starts to take over in dysfunctional ways, we can stop it. Wake back up. Slow down. Let go. You were never legitimately bound to any of it. You cling to it because you don't know who you are without it. But it doesn't fulfill you. And the irony is that you don't know fulfillment until you've let go of it. Until you let go of all of it and realize that what's left is that fulfillment that you've been looking for. That what you've been clinging to is a story of lack. An assumption that you don't have what you need. And that in letting go of that assumption, all that's left is what you need. Let go now. Let go and see. That feeling that grips around it is just a habit. It isn't real. You don't have to push it away. Just don't close up in front of it. It's composed of the same divine resonant light that everything else is. The worst stories of your life are composed of the same divine, resonant silence that everything else is. So there's nothing to avoid but avoidance itself. Do you need me to tell you to let go? Or can you take your own path in hand? I'll be here as long as I'm able. But this is your life. You know where the surface of the water is. Do you really need my permission to float there? At what point do you make that your own? I didn't let my teacher be the gatekeeper of that for me. Don't let me be the gatekeeper for you. There's nothing special about me that isn't also special about you. This week, I want you to think about that. I want you to consider taking ownership of your own spiritual life in that way. Doesn't mean we can't work together. The two aren't mutually exclusive. But there's a major step forward in everyone's life. Where they own what they've learned. Something to look at this week. Any questions before we end for the night? Okay. Great job, everybody. I'll be here next week.
Thank you, Liam.
Thank you, Liam.
Mm-hmm.